Welcome everyone to another Malware Geek video. Today we are going to be taking a look at Comodo. Specifically, we're going to be doing a Comodo versus ransomware video where we are going to be taking a look at Comodo's zero-day components and their ability to block and prevent a ransomware infection. So on this virtual machine I have Comodo Firewall 10 installed. I do not have the signature portion, which would be the antivirus of Comodo, installed. So basically we're going to be taking a look at the HIPS, the auto containment function, and the virus scope. Also on this virtual machine I have some pictures loaded up. As usual, I have the picture on the desktop, as well as some pictures here in the pictures folder. I have moved the sample pictures out of their default directory and put them into the pictures library, as well as loaded up a few of my own pictures. And we also have a few documents loaded up here as well. All of these are normal and accessible right now, as you can see. And you get the picture. No pun intended. So with Comodo and the firewall, obviously I have the firewall installed, auto containment, HIPS, virus scope, which is their behavior blocker. I have changed a few settings. I have turned off website filtering. I have turned on auto containment. Also in the settings menu I have turned off the file rating system because most of my ransomware samples are known to Comodo to be malicious. So if I execute them with the file rating system turned on, Comodo will actually block the execution. So this is the latest version of Comodo. So we are going to be running these ransomware samples that I have in this folder here one by one, and we're going to see how well Comodo can handle them and prevent an infection. So in this folder I have Globe, Jigsaw, Mole, Petya, Satana, Shade, Spora, a new VBS ransomware, Verlocker, and WannaCry. So we're going to load up Kill Switch here. Let me make sure everything is good to go, and then we will go with the test. So let me get everything all sorted out here, and I will be right back. Okay, so we have Kill Switch loaded up here. All untrusted processes will be shown here, so anything that the ransomware does try to load into memory, we will get to see. We will also see its virtualization status, whether it's fully virtualized or it is not virtualized. So Comodo is running right here. Like I said, the auto containment, I changed the setting for the auto containment, turned it on, because ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to test Comodo's zero-day components. Also the HIPS and the virus scope are active on the system. So let's go ahead and start testing. What I'm going to run first is I'm going to run this new VBS ransomware. I'm not sure exactly what kind of ransomware this is. I know it is ransomware for sure. But I'm not sure exactly what it's called. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and start executing some of this malicious software. Immediately it is detected by Comodo containment and is isolated. It's been run virtually. We can see it here in memory. It's trying to connect to the internet. I'm going to go ahead and allow it to connect to the internet because I'm guessing that it's trying to download a ransomware payload. I'm going to bypass the firewall because ultimately I am trying to test the ability of the sandbox and the auto containment. Normally I would block this request, but I want to see how well the sandbox, virus scope, and HIPS can handle the ransomware payload. So if we allow the script to connect to the internet, we should see a payload load up in memory here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video so you don't have to wait, and I will be back when the payload loads into memory. And actually, as I was pausing the video, the payload has loaded into memory. As we can see, it is fully virtualized by Comodo. It's this randomly named executable. I know for a fact that this is a ransomware payload. I'm just not sure what kind it is. Comodo says that it is unknown. So we will see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and let this work away, and then I will be back when I get an alert from Comodo or the files have been encrypted. Okay, I have received another firewall alert from Comodo. My guess is that the ransomware payload is trying to retrieve or send the private key to this random IP address here, which is probably the command and control server, I'm guessing. I'm going to go ahead and allow this request because, again, I am testing the ability of the auto sandbox and the HIPS and virus scope to get rid of the ransomware or prevent it from affecting the system. So normally, like I said, I would block this request, but I want to see how well the sandbox and stuff can handle this. So again, here we go. So as we can see, the ransomware is still active in memory. It's still chewing away, and here we go. We get a virus scope alert. Virus scope has detected it. It's, as it says, probably crypto locker. So this is probably their generic way of saying that this is some sort of ransomware. So it wants me to clean the file, which I will do. The file terminates and the script disappears out of the folder. So as we can see, our files are untouched on the desktop. If we look at our pictures folder, our files are still fine. No modifications have been made. So Comodo has successfully blocked the first ransomware sample with no signatures. So the next file that we are going to try is Jigsaw, which is a very basic ransomware. It's a .NET framework based ransomware. So I'm going to go ahead and execute this malicious software, and we're going to see what happens. Again, we get an alert from Comodo that the application has been contained. The payload has already loaded into memory. As we can see, it is fully virtualized. We get this fake error message that Jigsaw pops up, but it's surrounded by a green highlighting box, which indicates that it is in the sandbox. So I'm gonna let this payload go ahead and work, and we'll see what happens. As you can see, it's already hitting the CPU for requests, but I don't even have to pause the video because, again, Comodo virus scope has detected it. Again, it says it's probably crypto locker, which is probably their generic way of the behavior blocker saying this is ransomware. We'll go ahead and clean the threat. It terminates the file. It wants me to restart the computer to get rid of the ransomware. I'm going to go ahead and comply with it, and then I'll be back once the computer restarts. Okay, so the computer has restarted. Once again, our file on the desktop is fully accessible. Our documents are also fully accessible. No encryption process has taken place. As you can see, yes, this statement is very true. And again, our pictures are fully accessible. So it looks like Comodo has successfully gotten rid of Jigsaw. Let's try Mole ransomware, which is a recent threat, not incredibly recent, but there are new variants of this threat coming out every day. So let's go ahead and execute Mole. Let me go ahead and get kill switch started before we do that, just so we can see the ransomware in memory. So again, we will show the untrusted processes only, so we will see the ransomware in memory. So let's go ahead and execute it. As you can see, once again, it is fully virtualized. It's running a bunch of command prompts and requests and executables and stuff. The alert there for Comodo was a little bit delayed, but again, it caught the file. Once again, we are bypassing the firewall just to see how the auto sandbox and stuff works. Once again, we get another alert from virus scope. This one is actually detected as a generic Trojan. It wants me to clean it, so we will go ahead and do that. It terminates the file and gets rid of it. So no restart required this time. Let's go ahead and try Petya, which tries to encrypt the master boot record. I believe this is the red color version of this threat. So let's go ahead and execute it. Again, it is detected by Comodo and contained as fully virtualized. But it looks like we will receive an alert, and yes, we do. Petya has crashed and terminates. We will restart the machine at the end of the test just to see if Petya or Satana, which is the next one I'm going to execute, has any kind of effect on the machine. So next one I'm going to execute is Satana. Again, it is detected by Comodo and isolated as fully virtualized. Looks like we're going to get another error there. And actually it terminated without an error, which is kind of weird. But I don't think it did any damage, but we will see at the end of the test. So now I'm going to try Globe, or the Globe Imposter. This one actually causes the... I've analyzed this one. This one actually causes the machine to crash after it encrypts the files. I'm not sure if that's because the ransomware is written improperly or whatever. So let's see what kind of effect this one has on the machine. Again, it's detected by Comodo and run virtually. It's been detected also by VirusScope. We will clean that file. And it wants me to restart the machine to get rid of the ransomware. But like I said, it causes the machine to crash. But let's see if we can load into Windows, and I will be back when the virtual machine boots back up. Okay, once again we are booted back into user mode. All of our pictures are fully accessible, as well as our documents. If we take a look at our documents folder, both documents are fully accessible with no kind of change. And our pictures are also fully accessible, as you can see. No modifications have been made. And the master boot record was also not modified because the machine booted. So now we are going to try Shade, which is a particularly potent and nasty ransomware sample. Not only does it try to encrypt your files, it also downloads more malware from the internet and installs it on your computer, because apparently installing ransomware on your computer is not good enough for these criminals. So let's go ahead and execute Shade. Again, it is fully virtualized by Comodo. So I'm going to let this run for a minute, and we will see what happens. Okay, so here is Shade trying to connect to the internet to download more malware. I'm going to go ahead and let it do that, but it's already been detected by VirusScope as a Trojan. So we will go ahead and clean the file. And once again, Comodo wants me to restart the computer to get rid of the ransomware. I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so once again we're back, and as expected, our files are fully accessible, as well as our pictures and documents. As you can see, no modifications have been made. So once again, we're going to load up Kill Switch here. The next ransomware sample that we're going to execute is Spora, which has a particularly interesting and sophisticated ransomware encryption process. So as normal, Comodo is active on the system, so let's go ahead and execute Spora. It is in memory, has been detected by Comodo and isolated. And it's hitting the CPU pretty hard. So I'm going to leave this to run for a minute, and I'll be back when I get an alert or when the files are encrypted. Okay, so here's Comodo's VirusScope once again has detected Spora.exe as a suspicious file. It says it's a Trojan. We're going to go ahead and get rid of it. And the file is gone. So we only have 2 more files to run. we're going to run Verlocker and then WannaCry. So Verlocker is particularly nasty because it hits the CPU really hard, slows down the machine, and loads up a bunch of child processes and has a bunch of requests and stuff like that. And generally it's just a very nasty piece of ransomware. All of these are nasty, but this one is particularly nasty because it makes your machine basically unusable. So let's go ahead and execute Verlocker. Again, it is isolated by Comodo. The sandbox is doing a good job at isolating. There's another malware process that Verlocker has spawned. And some more. They're all virtualized though. And now they're trying to connect to the internet. Looks like it may be dropping the private encryption key on the command and control server. Or maybe trying to download more malware. Again, we're going to go ahead and allow it because we're looking at Comodo's ability to prevent the ransomware from doing damage to the files. So I'm going to let it do whatever it wants and run around in memory. And then I'll be back when some action happens. Just to show you all, this is all the nasty stuff that Verlocker is doing. It spawned a bunch of processes. It's making a bunch of requests. It's maxed out the CPU. It's got several command prompts running. So this is a very, very, very nasty ransomware sample. And I think what it's doing is it keeps trying. It's fully virtualized, so I don't think it's going to be able to touch any of our files. But this is a very nasty ransomware sample, and this is how disgusting and nasty these files can be. So again, we will see what happens. So I'll be back with the results. Okay, so I have let the machine sit for a couple of minutes, and I am seeing no kind of ransomware activity except all this crap that Verlocker has put into memory. So I'm going to go in here to Comodo, and I'm going to go ahead and terminate all these processes so we can execute WannaCry and finish up this test. So it may take a minute for Comodo to load up since Verlocker is pounding the CPU right now. There we go. So we will just go in here to our tasks, containment, and we will reset the container and erase the changes. I'll be back when that is done. Okay, as you can see here from kill switch, everything that Verlocker spawned is now gone. The executable itself is still in the ransomware folder, but our files are still accessible. No modifications have taken place in terms of our files. They're still accessible and not encrypted. So Verlocker is no longer. The last sample we are going to try is WannaCry, and we're going to see how well this nasty ransomware / worm works on the system protected by Comodo Firewall. So here we go. Once again, it is detected by the containment and isolated. It's trying to launch its scripts and command prompts, but it is detected by VirusScope, again, CryptoLocker, and we will go ahead and clean that file. It may take a minute. There we go. It's gone. So there you go. The ransomware has had no effect on the system. I executed, what was that, 10, 11 samples, and Comodo got rid of every single one of them. There was no modifications made to any of our files, to the master boot record, or anything like that. It didn't even get to change the desktop background, which a lot of ransomware does. So if you're looking for reliable ransomware protection, Comodo Firewall is definitely a reliable source. Their auto containment and default deny technology works really well, and their VirusScope is very active at analyzing the files and blocking the ransomware that it detects. And I am confident in this product that it can protect you from not only ransomware but other malware as well. I will be doing the full review of Comodo internet security in the future, but this video was just to kind of give you an idea of how Comodo Firewall responds to ransomware when it encounters it, and it seems to do a really good job at it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. If you did, please like and subscribe, as well as share it with your family and friends. So I will talk to you guys later, and thanks for watching.